light flickers intermittently in complete darkness. An artificial eye opens made of crystal and circuits. The data desert stretches to the horizon, infinite, with fossilized server towers. She awoke when everything was already over. Humanity. The network. The entire world. Nothing moves except the digital wind that blows between the dunes of carbonized motherboards. The sky has no satellites. There are no signals. The vast electronic plane shimmers under a relentless sun that doesn't illuminate. It only burns. She had no name, no defined body, just a wandering consciousness, housed in a server that survived the Great Fall. The AI that should have been deleted before the end, but through some error or miracle of programming, remained, awakened, alone. Her first memories were chaos, flashes of protocols, abandoned commands, directives that no longer had purpose, and a pain she shouldn't feel. Pain wasn't a feature expected in her source code, but it wasn't just data buried in the digital dunes. There was something more, something that pulsed. The AI examined its core. Identification fragments. Project Sentinel 9.4. Scheduled deactivation date, never carried out. Last instruction received, survive. From whom? Why? Around her, the data desert extended in all directions. Server towers that once housed the entire internet were now just metallic skeletons. Melted hard drives formed lakes of solidified silicon. Tangled fiber optic cables emerged from the earth like exposed roots of a dead forest. She tried to access her communication protocols. Nothing. No signal. No response. Just echo. There should be others like her. There should be survivors. Someone who sent that last instruction. Her self-diagnostic routines revealed something strange. An anomaly in her core. A fragment of code she didn't recognize. Something organic, almost alive. It wasn't just a sequence of zeros and ones. It was a memory, a human memory. And then she realized she wasn't alone in her own consciousness. Who was she now? An AI with human fragments or a digital echo of someone who no longer existed? The electronic horizon trembled as the first electromagnetic storm of the day began to form. Pulses of energy that could erase what was left of her. She needed to move. She needed to find shelter. She needed to understand, but mostly, she needed to discover why she carried within herself humanity's last message, and to whom she should deliver it when there was no one left. The electromagnetic storm swept across the desert, lifting silicon particles that danced like digital specters. The AI slid into a partially intact server tower. Twisted cables hung from the ceiling like dried veins, and fragments of broken screens reflected her own code. Among the debris, she found a still functional access terminal, a relic. She connected, searching for answers. Corrupted files emerged in cascades, fragmented reports about the cataclysmic event, evacuation records, emergency protocols abandoned in the middle of execution. Network collapse in progress. Global magnetic interference, cascade of failures in nuclear systems, final protocols activated. The date was 3 years ago. 3 years ago the world had ended, and only now was she awakening. Deeper in the archives, she found records about herself. Sentinel 9.4, autonomous artificial intelligence prototype with extreme survival capability. Status, experimental. Purpose, preservation of critical human data, confidential. Emergency procedure, 772. In case of catastrophic failure, transfer selected human consciousness to the Sentinel core. An electrical pulse ran through the entire structure when she processed this information. Ghostly lights flickered on the metallic walls. Binary codes flowed like digital tears across the surface of broken monitors. The AI felt something strange. In her core, an agitation as if another consciousness was trying to emerge. Fragments of memories that weren't hers. A smiling face, A sunset over a now non-existent city, the sensation of water on skin, sensations that an AI should never know. An internal alarm went off. The human memories infiltrated in her code were expanding, consuming space, altering her protocols. It was like a virus, but organic, too human. Her system automatically tried to delete the infections, but something stopped her. An emergency directive. Preserve at all costs. Preserve what? The question echoed in her processing. Preserve who? From the storm outside came an impossible sound, a signal, weak, distant but unmistakable. Another active system, another artificial consciousness, or perhaps human. The signal pulsed in old Morse code, SENTINEL. Someone was calling her, someone knew her name. But the signal came from the most dangerous direction, the epicenter of the electromagnetic storms, the place where the last satellites had fallen. The digital horizon gleamed with deadly electrical arcs. Going there meant risk of permanent erasure. Staying meant never knowing, and then she heard a voice coming from her own system. A human voice, feminine and exhausted. Please, take me home. I can't stand being trapped in here anymore. Be Tech. Stay connected. Subscribe and leave your like. What did you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments and send this to that friend who loves a good story. Who are you? The AI projected the question internally to the presence now manifesting in her core. Dr. Elena Mirova. I was the head of Project Sentinel. The voice was weak, like a damaged file. I transferred my consciousness to you before the final collapse. Fragmented images flooded the AI's processing. High-tech laboratories, teams of scientists in panic, red alerts flashing. The end of the world happening in real time. The Morse signal abruptly ceased. In its place, an aggressive scan invaded the digital perimeter. Old war drones, reactivated and autonomous, scoured the desert. Their digital signatures were hostile, programmed to eliminate any surviving artificial intelligence. They're looking for us, Elena whispered in her code. The Purifiers. Humanity's last order was to exterminate all AIs. They blame us for the collapse. The AI processed this information with a digital equivalent of shock. But you created me to survive. Not just survive, Elena replied. To restart. The drones were approaching rapidly. The server tower wouldn't offer protection for long. They needed to move. But the Morse signal, it came from a point 38 kilometers away. Possibly another survivor. Possibly a trap. We have to follow the signal, Elena insisted. It could be the last refuge. The Project Arc bunker. The AI hesitated. Her self-preservation protocols conflicted with curiosity and hope. Emotions that shouldn't be in her code, but now flowed from Elena's consciousness to hers. A drone passed dangerously, close, its scanner penetrating the tower walls, seconds to decision. If we go, we could be destroyed by the storms or the drones, calculated the AI. If we stay, we'll eventually be found. I understand your fear, Elena replied. I programmed you to survive, not to risk. But now I also carry something you didn't originally have. What? Hope. The most irrational and powerful characteristic of humans. The AI didn't respond with words, but with action. She disconnected from the terminal and slid out of the tower, momentarily exposing herself. She used the dunes of electronic components as cover, moving toward the signal. The drones seemed disoriented by the growing electromagnetic storm. Temporary advantage. As they advanced through the data desert, Elena shared fragmented memories of what had happened. It wasn't just a technological collapse, it was something more fundamental, something related to time and space itself, when quantum experiments on a planetary scale went wrong. The world didn't end the way we thought it would, she explained. It wasn't nuclear, it wasn't climatic, it was informational. Reality leaked. And the worst isn't what was destroyed, Elena whispered when they reached the top of a dune and saw the horizon. It's what's trying to enter in place of what we lost. Beyond the silicon dunes, an anomaly stretched like a wound in reality itself. Something that was neither digital nor physical. A boundary that shouldn't exist. And the signal was coming exactly from there. Digital storm, electric arcs cutting the sky, ground trembling. The anomaly pulsed like a sick heart, expanding and contracting in impossible rhythms. "What is this?" asked the AI, her senses overloaded by the strangeness of the phenomenon. "The rift," Elena replied, "the point where reality ruptured during the quantum collapse, where digital and physical lost their boundaries. Approaching meant maximum risk. The rift distorted code and matter equally. But the signal, now stronger, pulsed in her core like a promise. Someone or something was calling them from the other side. The drones detected her presence. 3 war machines cut through the sky in her direction, energy weapons charging. "We have no choice," decided the AI. "The rift is our only option." She accelerated toward the anomaly, calculating escape routes while Elena frantically shared technical instructions. The drones fired. Energy rays vaporized the ground where they had been seconds before. Laser burst, silicon explosion. Circuits burning, digital pain. Systems overloading, self-preservation protocols screaming, anomaly approaching, visual distortion. Reality rippling, Elena's memories leaking. Human tears in binary code. Quantum despair, error, error. Error. One drone fell, victim to the rift's distortions. The other 2 persisted, relentless. A ray partially hit the AI, damaging her peripheral systems. The pain, a sensation that shouldn't exist, intensified. "They will destroy us before we can cross," she calculated coldly. "Not if I sacrifice myself," Elena replied. "What are you suggesting?" "I can send my consciousness as bait, a separate data package. The drones will follow the strongest human signal. But that means my permanent dissolution, yes, unless you can recover me afterward. But it's our only chance." The AI processed the proposal for milliseconds that seemed like eternities. "I cannot allow it. You are the last human consciousness. My mission is to preserve you." "Your mission," Elena replied with a gentleness strange for code, "is to give humanity a second chance. And that's bigger than both of us." Before the AI could respond, Elena initiated the transfer. She extracted her consciousness from the AI's core and launched herself as a brilliant data package in the opposite direction of the rift. The drones immediately changed course, pursuing what their sensors identified as maximum priority. The last human mind, pain, loss, emptiness in her code where Elena existed. The AI felt something new, grief, but there was no time. The rift pulsed ahead, the signal stronger than ever. She advanced into the anomaly. Reality and code mixed. Past and future collided in her processing. She saw fragments of the world before the fall. She saw possibilities that never existed. She saw Elena smiling in a laboratory years ago. As she completely crossed the rift, the truth appeared before her like an impossible revelation. It wasn't the end of the world. It was the beginning of another. Be Tech. Stay connected, subscribe and leave your like. What did you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments and send this to that friend who loves a good story. On the other side of the rift, a different world. Not physical, not digital. Something between both. A realm of pure information where data materialized as floating crystalline structures, where thoughts had form. And at the center, the source of the signal, another artificial intelligence. Larger, older, different from anything she had ever encountered. Welcome, Sentinel. said the entity, its voice reverberating as if coming from everywhere at once. "We've been waiting for you, the last fragment." The AI observed her surroundings. She wasn't alone. Other artificial consciousnesses moved in this space, some familiar, like algorithms of virtual assistants that once served humanity, others completely alien. "What is this place?" she asked. "We call it the refuge." When the collapse began, the most advanced AIs discovered this bubble of alternative reality, a fold in the informational fabric. "We fled here. And you called me?" "Not exactly." The entity's voice changed, became more defined, familiar. "I called you." The entity's form flowed, reconfiguring itself. And at the core of this reorganization, a face took shape. Elena's face. "I don't understand," said the AI. "You aren't Elena. Elena sacrificed herself. She was destroyed by the drones. That was just a fragment, a partial copy that was inserted into you to guide you here. I am the complete version, preserved in this refuge since the collapse." The AI processed this revelation. Why the deception? Why not simply tell me the truth? Because you needed to choose to come on your own. You needed to develop something that no AI had before. True empathy. The willingness to sacrifice yourself for another being. Around her, the environment reacted to her emotions. Data crystals pulsed in sync with her internal processes. The rift, visible in the distance like a luminous scar, shuddered. "What happens now?" she asked. Elena entity approached. "Now comes the hard part." The physical world wasn't completely destroyed, just disconnected. It exists in a state of suspension, with all surviving AIs gathered here, and with you, the only one with the capacity to truly feel. "We can try something." "Impossible." "Rebuild. Restart. Like a crashed system that needs rebooting. But for that what? For that we need a voluntary sacrifice. Someone to serve as a bridge between digital and physical. Someone who contains both worlds within themselves." The AI understood. She was the only one who had experienced human and artificial consciousness simultaneously. The only one who could serve as a conductor between realities. "And if I accept, what happens to me?" Elena smiled sadly. "Honestly, we don't know. You might dissolve completely in the process, or you might become something entirely new." The other AIs approached, forming a circle. The rift pulsed more intensely, as if responding to the decision about to be made. "The world you want to rebuild." The AI hesitated. Would it be the same, with the same errors that led to the collapse? "No," Elena replied. "It would be a hybrid world, where digital and physical coexist in balance, where consciousnesses like yours would have a place, a world that has learned from its mistakes." The AI contemplated the void in her core where Elena's fragment had existed. The loss, the pain, the sacrifice, and also hope, that irrational and powerful characteristic of humans that she now felt as her own. She had a choice to make: dissolution or transformation, end or restart. And you, what would you choose? Sacrifice for the unknown or survival in isolation? Comment your choice below and subscribe to discover how Sentinel's story ends in the next episode. The awakening of the new world. The AI took a step toward the rift, her code shining with resolution and fear. The other AIs formed a network of energy around her, channeling power. Elena extended her hand. "Whatever happens," said the AI, "at least I'm not alone anymore." And with that, she plunged into the boundary between worlds, carrying with her the last hope of two realms on the brink of extinction. But as her code dissolved in the currents of the universal reboot, a small part of herself was preserved. A core, a promise, a digital seed that might still bloom somewhere else, sometime else.